Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ronald McDonald Children's Charities Awards of Excellence Celebration. Tonight, October 5th, 1991, RMCC is proud to honor McDonald's owner-operators Nick and Kathy Narangis, Dr. Robert A. Good, and President Jimmy Carter. Brought to you by the members of the Golden Circle, Coca-Cola, East Vault Commissary, Fresh Start Foods, Golden State Foods, The Hobby Group, Keystone Foods, Martin Brower, OSI Industries, Quaker Oats, and J.R. Simplot.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Master of Ceremonies, Bill Curtis.
Good evening. Welcome to Ronald McDonald Children's Charities' 5th Awards of Excellence celebration. Your presence here tonight has helped raise $1.2 million for children around the world. And thanks to the Golden Circle, who covered the expense of tonight's dinner, every dollar from every plate will go directly to kids. Now, along with the Golden Circle, there are several other RMCC partners who raise millions of dollars throughout the year, including Scott Paper, DuPont, Mead Johnson Nutritionals, Southwest Airlines, the McDonald's Golf Championship, Apple Computer, Motorola, GE Information Services, and SeaWorld. We've got an exciting evening ahead, an evening filled with music by some of the most talented kids in the country. The entire Interlochen Academy Arts Orchestra will join us during the show, along with the Boys Choir of Harlem and the Soul Children of Chicago. These talented kids are all recipients of grants from RMCC, all beneficiaries of your generosity. Ladies and gentlemen, the Interlochen Arts Academy Orchestra, conducted by Byron Hanson. One more time. Officially, welcome to the 1991 RMCC Awards of Excellence celebration. I'm Bill Curtis. I am thrilled to be back again this year. I had intended to be here last year, but was called away at the last minute to Saudi Arabia. For those of you in Chicago, my co-anchor Linda McLennan graciously agreed to take my place, but even more graciously, she allowed me to get it back. I'm very proud, very honored to be a part of RMCC. Looking out across this sea of smiling faces, it's hard to believe RMCC is only 7 years old, and already it's enough to fill a football field here. Ronald McDonald Children's Charities is literally growing by leaps and bounds, yet the bigger we grow, the closer we get to the kids who need us the most. Today, RMCC has 65 local chapters. By next year, we'll have more than 100. We're a local charity with an international presence, soon to be in 10 countries outside the United States. In just 7 years, RMCC has given more than $40 million to the kids who need it most. And by next year, we will have passed the $50 million milestone. It's important to note that all of this money goes directly to help kids. And that fact alone makes this charity unique in all the world. In 1991, we passed a major milestone in Paris. Just 1 month ago, the doors were opened to the 150th Ronald McDonald House. This house that love built is now called home by more than 500,000 family members per year. Last year, through RMCC, you gave more than $11 million to children around the world. You gave the gift of sight by providing free eye exams and free glasses to the needy children of Kansas. You provided housing for homeless women who were pregnant, thereby ensuring the new baby a fighting chance in life. You supported 245 Boys and Girls Clubs of America, which are helping young people in the poorest areas of the country deal with the 3 most immediate threats to their well-being: alcohol, drugs, and teen pregnancy. You supported the United States Academic Decathlon and sent the message to our youth that success can be attained by study and perseverance. You supported education and the arts through the Young Writers Contest and nurtured the pens of thousands of kids. And you supported all the young musicians you'll see on our stage tonight. These are just a few examples from more than 1,200 children's programs RMCC has helped in 1991. Last year at this time, hundreds of thousands of American men and women were yanked out of their lives and dropped into a desert thousands of miles from home for an unspecified period of time. Families were pulled apart. Mothers and fathers said goodbye to their children. But you were there for those kids. Through your generous donations to RMCC, you were there within days after the first troops began shipping out. RMCC made an emergency grant of $100,000 to the USO for direct assistance to military families to make certain that no child lacked the necessary school, medical, or food supplies throughout the crisis. That's what your presence here tonight is all about. You are the persons who give RMCC the strength to be there whenever and wherever we are needed. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the President and CEO of Ronald McDonald Children's Charities, one of the founding fathers of RMCC, Mr. Jerry Newman.
Today would be Ray's 89th birthday. Now, Ray had a lot of love in his heart. He loved his McDonald family, but there was one person he loved more than any other. And Joni, will you please stand up? Ronald McDonald's Children's Charities was established in memory of Ray Kroc. Memories of Ray fill my every day. Ray was the most generous man I've ever met. He was also the most conservative. I'll never forget my first company car. It was the most exciting car I ever drove, mainly because the passenger door had no latch. And left turns became really exciting. So I innovated and I took a coat hanger and rigged it to the door, and basically I thought I solved the problem. One Saturday at the office, Ray asked me to give him a ride home, and I said, sure. And we got into the car. I said, take this coat hanger and hold on tight. I made a left turn, and Ray almost left the car, and he said, this car isn't safe for man. The next Monday, I had a brand new Chevy. That was a smart move on my part. He was very generous, yet very conservative. Ray bought the San Diego Padres. On the first night of the opening season, he was very excited. Unfortunately, the Padres played terrible. And it didn't matter to Ray. He was so excited, he grabbed the microphone from the announcer and apologized for them playing like a bunch of cooks. The following day, Doug Rader of the Padres ran onto the field wearing a chef's hat. Now, the Padres really weren't playing very good, and Ray knew it, and he said it. And history showed that the Padres started to improve, maybe because Ray told it like it was. And if anybody in this room ever met Ray, that story is very, very familiar. He was generous, he was conservative, he was outspoken. He had high standards. He expected everyone around him to try their best. He also had diabetes most of his adult life. And through the Kroc Foundation, he spent millions of dollars trying to find a cure for diabetes. Unfortunately, he died before that happened. Today, the cure still eludes us. Now, the last time I saw Ray, his mind was there, still sharp and clear, though his body was weak. I put my arm around him, held him, gave him a kiss, because something told me it'd be the last time I'd ever see him. It was shortly after his last birthday. Now, Ray started an international family that grew one member at a time. And Ray, here's a birthday card from all of us. Ray Kroc lives on through RMCC. And now I have a very important announcement to make. The Ronald McDonald Children's Charities is declaring war on childhood cancer. The Board of Trustees of RMCC have committed to give up to $5 million over the next 5 years to medical research institutions for the purpose of wiping out neural tumors in children. We have chosen to wage war against the cruelest enemy a kid can have because for the first time ever, we got a good, clean shot. We can almost see the whites of its eyes. Scientists have recently discovered a cancer-suppressing gene that occurs naturally within the body. And when the gene is absent, cancer develops. The genetic engineering has allowed them to clone this absent gene and introduce it into cancer cells, which in some cases immediately make those malignant cells benign. They will not reproduce, they will not double, they will not spread. If we win this war, the benefits will be enormous for children the world over, in fact, for all mankind. So we're going for it. And I know Ray would be proud. And for those of you who may wish to make a contribution this year, I put some nice envelopes on your table. It could be used for many purposes. Incidentally, I just got one a couple of minutes ago from somebody, and I want to make the announcement. Coca-Cola Company from Don Keel just gave me $1 million for RMCC. Tonight, there is a man among us who solved a great medical mystery that once claimed the lives of many, many children. The 1991 RMCC Medical Award of Excellence goes to Dr. Robert A. Good, and here's why.
Less than 20 years ago, Dr. Robert Good solved a mystery that had baffled physicians for centuries. Why are some babies born with no immune system? To understand the importance of his contribution to pediatric medicine, it helps to hear from a former student. Stu Siegel is a member of the RMCC board.
Bob Good is really a legend in medicine. He's really the father of modern immunology. He described the theories of how the immune system, the defense that we have against infection and other foreign materials that get into the body, how that system develops in the fetus, and then how it operates in the child. He described the mechanisms in the worst case scenarios, such as the famous boy in the plastic bubble.
The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, as you may remember, was made into a movie based on the true story of a boy who had spent virtually his entire life in a completely sterile environment. It was Dr. Good who first cracked the code on immune deficiency diseases. Dr. Good, who pointed the way to the cure.
Dr. Good defined the two major parts of the immune system, the B-cell system and the T-cell system. Once we understood that there were really two separate problems, we looked at patients like the boy in the plastic bubble and discovered they lacked both parts of the immune system. How could we treat this? Well, the only way was to resupply both parts of the immune system. And the only way you could do that would be to give such an individual someone else's cells.
Dr. Good's bone marrow theory was proven by Dr. Good himself. He performed one of the first successful pediatric bone marrow transplants and cured 5-month-old David Camp. Dr. Good never lost touch with the boy. Today, David Camp is the father of healthy twins.
Our success rate with bone marrow transplantation for this disease is now over 90%. Today, virtually every child who is born with this disease and has an appropriate donor is cured by this technique.
Pioneering researcher, dynamic teacher, superb physician. The work of Dr. Robert Good
will continue to save the lives of children throughout the world for generations.
Dr. Good, please join me on stage. It is gorgeous. Dr. Good, on behalf of RMCC, it gives me great pleasure to present with you this 1991 Physicians Award of Excellence, which weighs 50 pounds, I swear to God. And with this check for $100,000, which I'll take out of my pocket. Let me give this back to the girl. Thank you. This is the important thing.
It's a real thrill for me to be here tonight and to learn more about the Ronald McDonald Children's Charities. You people are doing an incredible thing. It's often that we give our kids short shrift. You don't, and I think that is extremely important. And what I intend to do with this $100,000 is to start a laboratory where I can study, and my colleagues can study the viruses that suppress the immunity function. And this ought to yield real results for the children in the future. At this moment, and it is a very special moment for me to get this award from the Ronald McDonald Charities, because of so many things you have done, and because of the other awardees you have honored. But I want to give thanks. I want to give thanks to my teachers, my professors, my fellows, my students, my colleagues, but most of all, thanks to my patients. My patients have always been my greatest teacher. Thank you very much.
Boys Choir of Harlem, directed by Dr. Walter Turnbull. A special thanks to our friends at United Airlines for flying the entire choir from New York to Chicago at no charge. A big thanks. Now, please give a warm welcome to RMCC's Vice President and Executive Director, the man who is continually described as having the best job in the world, Ken Barron.
Thanks, Bill. Glad to see that I wasn't hiding my eyes. Bill had a few tears, too. Well, kind of looks like we have a full house, and you know, I want to tell you, that says a lot about your commitment to children. RMCC is more than a charity. It's an investment in our most precious resource. It's a commitment to the children who will soon inherit our world, a commitment to a purpose larger than what any one of us could accomplish alone. RMCC is what draws us all together. It's what brings out our best. It provides a place to pool our love and in so doing create an ocean of opportunity and hope for children around the world. Tonight you've heard about our commitment to medicine, and in these stages you're hearing our commitment to the arts. And now I'm going to tell you a story about our social and civic commitment. It's a local story, a grassroots story, as so many of our RMCC stories are. It's about two people who made a commitment to their McDonald's franchise 21 years ago. Now, on the day that Nick and Kathy Narangis opened their restaurant, they set a sales record which remains unbroken to this day. In their very first hour of business, they did a total of 79 cents. Had a hard time getting that to the bank, didn't you? But you know, they persevered, and they never wavered in their commitment. Today, they run 7 successful restaurants in Winchester, Virginia. Long ago, they made a commitment to give back to the community that made their success possible. And they've never wavered in that commitment either. 2 examples come to mind. This summer, they had a big party on prom night at 4 o'clock in the morning. The deal was this: show up sober in formal dress and get a free breakfast. They had a huge turnout. Police reported not 1, but 2 firsts for prom night. Not a single traffic accident, and not a single arrest for driving under the influence. Another example. 5 years ago, Kathy helped invent a holiday called First Night. Now, most people know this holiday as something called New Year's Eve. Well, Kathy reinvented that. First Night is a non-alcoholic family festival of the arts that involves the entire town. And it's so popular that they've helped bring this celebration to more than 70 other communities. Well, this is what it means to give back to the community that makes you successful. But these aren't the only reasons we're giving the McTLC Award to Nick and Kathy Narangis. They've earned the award for their highly targeted initiative toward winning the war against drugs and alcohol in their own community. Take a look at this.
Not so long ago, the quiet community of Winchester, Virginia suddenly found itself a battlefield in the drug war. Almost overnight, it was designated by the Washington Post as the crack distribution capital of the East Coast. Winchester had the misfortune to be conveniently located along the crack cocaine corridor to urban points north. The ring was busted. But the fight continues, led by McDonald's owner-operators Nick and Kathy Narangis. And today, with the help and support of their entire community, they are winning the war against substance abuse in their hometown. Their strategy starts with prevention, and it starts early. As accomplished puppeteers, their troupe of puppets, called the Small Fries, do a far better job at reaching kids than either Nick or Kathy as adults could ever dream of doing. That's why Kathy teaches teenagers how to speak to grade schoolers about the dangers of substance abuse. It's why Nick teaches kids how to use his puppets to deliver the message. This is Rhythms. It's a gathering place for teens, but no drugs or alcohol will be found here. As one of the founders of Rhythms Teen Center, Kathy Naranges depends on an adult board and a teen board, working hand in hand to make sure that Rhythms remains a fun place to go. The concept has been so successful, it was nationally recognized by President Bush. Nick and Kathy's war on drugs goes beyond prevention to intervention when necessary. As active members of a local organization of concerned parents called Kids Are Our Concern, they worked in partnership with the high school to develop an in-school program for kids with drug and alcohol-related problems. Students attend support groups once a week with other kids who have the same problems. Teenagers with more serious drug problems are enrolled in a program called First Step, an off-campus treatment facility offering academic classes and counseling. For teens throughout Virginia in need of intensive treatment, Shalom et Benedictus, a long-term residential treatment center, is available. Kathy is the renovation chairman and vice president of the board of directors. These substance abuse programs are among the most comprehensive in the country. Their success motivated Nick and Kathy to co-produce a videotape called We Can Move the Mountains, which they funded through RMCC. The video now has national distribution, which is helping other communities begin their own programs. Some people have the power to mobilize entire communities to great achievements. Nick and Kathy Naranges are two such people.
Nick and Kathy, please join me on stage. £75, Jerry. Nick and Kathy, it gives me great pleasure to present you with this RMCC McTLC Award for a job well done and well deserved. And also, Nick, I'm going to give you this because it's heavy. God. And I'm going to give Kathy this check for $25,000 because I know she's going to spend it.
Yeah, what's new?
Thank you. In receiving a prestigious award like this, you try to find words that can adequately express how deeply touched and honored you are to be recognized in this way. Words don't come easily. As McDonald's operators, we feel this is the finest honor that we could ever receive because through this award, we can further help children in our community. What greater privilege could any of us as human beings have? A friend in Winchester saw an article in last night's paper telling about the McTLC Award and the Ronald McDonald Children's Charities, and she called to say that this indeed was the gift that keeps on giving. Because of this gift, we'll be able to provide seed money for a very much needed new teen center, continue with renovation for the adolescent drug and alcohol treatment facility, sponsor the play A Christmas Carol at a professional theater, and provide a special performance this Christmas Day for children and families who would not be having a Christmas. We're going to help 2 Ronald McDonald houses and help start a children's discovery room in a new museum in our community. Thank you.
Our first McDonald's in Richmond, Virginia, in 1970 was so low in volume that we didn't know if we could survive as operators. When we called for help, Jerry Newman was there to work a little bit of his magic. Ed Renzi was there as our field service manager. He even rolled up his sleeves and worked French fries for me in some of those lean hours. I remember it fondly, Ed. We were accepted as members of this McDonald's family from the very beginning. We realized how being assisted has turned our future around. How then could we not help others when it became possible for us to do it? All we have really done is to reflect the caring shown for us back into our communities. Ray Kroc founded this company on very high moral ground, and we're proud to share it with all of you. We're doing for our communities what you have done for us, because what goes around comes around. Thank you.
Thank you, family.
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. Only a face without a name. And I never once heard you complain. I was the one with all the glory, and you were the one with all the strength. Only a face without a name, and I never once heard you complain. Fly higher than an eagle when you're the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I got it all right here, right here, right here, down in my heart. I want you to know that I know the truth, and I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know? And everything I like to be, I can fly higher than an eagle when you are the wind beneath my wings. When you are the wind beneath my
Yes. Yes, those are the Soul Children of Chicago, directed by Walter Whitman. Welcome. We want to hear more from them. We have a great show planned for you a little bit later on, but please join me in giving a warm welcome to RMCC's Chairman of the Board, Ed Renzi.
Good evening. You are clearly the wing beneath the wings of these beautiful children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, our sons, and our daughters. Once again, we are faced with a dilemma. Who and how do we thank you? You all make such wonderful things possible for children. And with each passing year, we see you do more and more and more. Through RMCC, your power to positively affect the lives of children is snowballing. And I thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. You're a special group. And thanks to most grateful thanks to all of you who help us throughout the year. I think it's appropriate to acknowledge the fine work of the Ronald McDonald's Children's Charities Board of Trustees. This board has to be the hardest working, most hands-on board in charitable history. If you want to see passion, I invite you to visit an RMCC board meeting and listen to the debate and the love which is poured over each and every grant request. The board is very careful to get the most out of all of your contributions. They may be page 2 in your programs, but they are certainly number 1 in our hearts. I especially want to pay tribute to the medical committee, specifically to Dr. Ed Baum, Dr. Bill Cromie, Dr. Audrey Evans, Dr. John Folletta, and Dr. Stu Siegel. You heard of the donation, please. You heard the announcement Jerry made talking about neurotumors. Well, these dedicated men and women of our board of the medical profession are the heavy bombers in waging that war on this childhood cancer. They are the primary reason why I believe that we will ultimately win that war. They will ensure that your money is invested wisely. These folks, in reality, are true American heroes. RMCC helps kids to see, to hear, to walk, to talk and sing, and to dance and perform, to compose and write and read and draw and paint and act and laugh, to eat and ski, swim, skate, to conserve and to preserve, and ultimately to reach for their stars. It's much more than just one single thing, you see. It's a dream that all of us in this room can dream together for them, to take our money and our hearts and mix them together and share them with our children so that their lives will be better than before. A dream of each child reaching their full potential. President Jimmy Carter shares that same kind of dream. He has been described as the most active ex-president in American history. He is the embodiment of the American can-do, bootstrap spirit that transcends individual interest and reaches out to the people. Jimmy Carter is the first American president to literally strap on a tool belt and help build a home for a neighbor. The first American president to remain on a first-name basis with the American public. He is the quintessential American, full of love of country and love for mankind. Jimmy Carter is a world leader, a peacemaker, a teacher, and a healer of the human spirit. Please watch with me.
In 1976, a smiling peanut farmer walked from Plains, Georgia, to Washington, D.C., right up the steps of the White House. Jimmy Carter never stopped walking toward his vision of a better world. And over the past 15 years, more and more people have followed him toward that vision. In 1986, Jimmy and Rosalind established the Carter Center for the purpose of waging peace the world over. In Africa, the Carter Center is sowing the seeds of a green revolution by teaching farmers better ways to grow their own food. In Ghana, they taught 40 farmers how to plant their land using better farming techniques, then sent them back to their villages to teach other families the same techniques. By the end of 1989, more than 200,000 families were growing 4 times as much food on the same amount of land. For the first time, Ghana faced a surplus rather than a shortage of food. in India, Pakistan, and 17 countries of Africa. The center is working to eradicate dracunculiasis, a painful, debilitating disease that incapacitates millions of children each year. By teaching people simple ways to prevent this waterborne parasite from infecting children, the Carter Center hopes to wipe this endemic disease from the face of the earth by the year 1995. The health of children is of special interest to the Carter Center. Each year, some 3 million children die from preventable diseases, such as measles, polio, and tetanus. Working in partnership with the United Nations, Jimmy Carter's goal is to immunize all the world's children by the year 2000. As the author of 6 books, former President Carter is especially interested in fostering the writing abilities of children. His support of the Young Writers Contest, sponsored by RMCC, is providing millions of kids with the motivation to excel in written communications. Jimmy Carter has a special way of helping people. He teaches them how to help themselves. He's a good neighbor whose neighborhood is the world. He never stopped walking, never stopped dreaming, never stopped waging peace. And Ronald McDonald's Children's Charities hopes he never will.
This is wonderful magic. I was up here by myself, and now look who's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Joan Kroc, Honorary Chairman of Ronald McDonald's Children's Charities. Joan?
I'm the one that's honored to be a part of this marvelous, marvelous organization. Jimmy and Rosalind Carter are good neighbors to the whole world. We share their dreams and their visions, and tonight we share our hearts with you, Mr. President and Rosalind. Please join us on stage for your award.
Mr. President, thank you and congratulations. On behalf of Ronald McDonald's Children's Charities, I'd like to present to you the 1991 Award of Excellence. Sir, it's a privilege to have you here. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I'll hold it. You hold it. Yep, just a minute. The President wants to get to the microphone. No. Here's 100,000. Oh, very good. Now we got the place.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Tonight when I came in the hotel, everybody was rushing forward to say, "Congratulations, Jimmy." And I said, well, I hope the Braves win the World Series, not just the Western Division. For 6 years, we've waited for the Braves to come to the top. They were at the bottom for 6 years. And I think this is not inappropriate for me to use as a parallel because despite the wonderful work that the Ronald McDonald Children's Charities do, on a global basis, and even in our own country, the children are still on the bottom. In a few days, I'll be going back to an African nation to help them hold an election to bring multi-party democracy to the country for the first time in its existence. In that capital city last year, while I was there, a survey was run in the hospitals of that large city. 23% of all the babies born already had AIDS. This is a disease in Africa that's transmitted not by homosexuality or drug needles, but between men and women. The children are the ones who suffer most. I teach at Emory University in Atlanta, who runs a very large hospital for indigents, Grady Hospital. Every month, almost 200 babies are born with addiction to cocaine in the richest country with the finest medical science on earth. Year before last, Rosa and I spent 20 days negotiating in the Horn of Africa to try to bring peace to troubled nations, Ethiopia and Sudan. The year before that, 260,000 people died in just 1 year because of a war in Sudan. Most of us never heard about it. These are black people, they're Africans, they don't have oil. And many people don't know or don't care. It's not soldiers on the battlefield who die in war. It's the children who starve because of deliberate withholding of food as a battlefield tactic, and the forcing of these children to leave their homes and leave a place of sustenance. Rosen and I traveled to Khartoum, on the edge suburbs of that large city, where the Blue Nile and White Nile come together. There's a garbage dump, an enormous garbage dump, on which live 45,000 people. We saw the children there, without adequate medical care, without food to eat, and having no home. In our country, again, richest nation perhaps on earth, we have hundreds of thousands of people who cannot say, why don't we go home? Because they have no home. Most of the time, this doesn't seriously impact on the life of the mother and father, but it can destroy the life of their children. 55% of all new pregnancies in this country are unplanned and unwanted. RMCC tries to address that question. One of the most prevalent causes of this affliction on young girls beginning at the age of 11 is that they don't have any faith that the decision they make can change their fate or their destiny, because they've never seen success in their own homes. The children, again, are the ones who suffer. The year that Rosa and I left the White House, measles was almost non-existent in this country. There was a very firm commitment to child immunization. We now have about 25,000 cases of measles in this country. Today, 40,000 children died on earth from preventable causes. These are devastating stories about overseas foreigners on the one hand and our next door neighbors on the other. There are some success stories. Tuesday, I'll be going to the United Nations to commemorate an achievement that will have far-reaching impact, perhaps. 6 years ago, there was a practically non-existent success story in immunizing the world's children against polio, measles, diphtheria, typhoid, whooping cough, and the use of oral rehydration therapy to counteract diarrhea diseases, the major cause of the death of little children. The United Nations organizations couldn't work together. World Health Organization, UNICEF, were highly competitive, even antagonistic on occasion. The United Nations Development Program didn't cooperate with them. The Rotary clubs that give free of charge polio immunization techniques was working on its own. Rockefeller Foundation and others the same. They came to the Carter Center. We put together a task force, the Task Force on Child Survival. And Tuesday we'll commemorate the fact at the United Nations that we've jumped in 6 years from 20% of the third world children to 80% who've been totally immunized against these childhood diseases. The Carter Center does very little work on these particular projects. We are not using any more resources than were wasted in the past. The point is, they now find a way to work as a team and not in different directions and as competitors. We're now contemplating, hasn't been announced until tonight, I guess, a major program in one major city in Atlanta, looking toward the 1996 Olympics, a city that has always had good racial harmony. The black and white elite, the leaders, get along very well. But there's still a chasm between the black and white rich people who make the decisions, who are blessed in every way, and the black and white poor people who don't have much influence and who suffer from homelessness, lack of good health care, drug addiction, crime, and a high dropout rate, and in some cases, inadequate education. So we're going to try to address Atlanta in a comprehensive program to see if we cannot, somewhere in this great nation, resolve those problems or make some degree of success. It's fraught with the chance of failure. We recognize that. But we believe that failure is not making the attempt to succeed. And if you save one cracked baby or keep a few high school kids in school, that can be measured as success. Let me say that our nation is so great. I've seen it from a governor's office, I've seen it from the White House, from the Oval Office. But we have not yet marshaled the tremendous governmental and private resources of this nation to address the afflictions of America's kids. If other corporations would look at McDonald's and look at the Ronald McDonald Children's Charities and say, that is a great idea, let us add our part, we could be successful in this country and set a standard for the world in giving our children and their children across the ocean a chance for a good life. Thank you.
I want to thank RMCC for the wonderful things you do for the children of our country. And I have a wonderful announcement to make. Joan Kroc, in memory of her husband Ray, has pledged to match Don Keogh Coca-Cola's gift of $1 million to RMCC's new program.
Thank you